Welcome back to Real Life Answers. My name is Ben. Have you ever wondered if it's possible to earn your salvation? Well, if you have, you're in luck, because this week we're moving on to part 3 in our discussion about why you can't earn your salvation. The indication here is that this young man kind of does, because he looks at Jesus and he says, which ones? And rather than to argue with him again and reiterate that he has to keep all of them, Jesus is going to do that in a kind of roundabout sort of way. Jesus starts listing all of the commands that deal with man. Jesus said, you shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and mother and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, on the surface, this gets kind of confusing because it would appear that Jesus is teaching a works-based salvation. He's not. Because as we move on down, what he's about to do is he's using this list as a means to show this young man how far from having anything that he can offer God he actually is. He wants to show this young man that he is spiritually bankrupt when it comes to currency, to do business with God. Because as we go on down, the young man starts, first he kind of perks up. This is the roundabout part of it. He kind of perks up. He says, well, I kept all this from my youth up. And he starts to feel pretty good. And he goes, now, wait a minute. What still do I like? What still do I lack is the Hebrew way of saying, Jesus, what aren't you telling me? Jesus, you're pulling my leg. You're pulling my chain, man. This can't be it. And the reason he was so amazed that this would be it is because if you look at these rules that Jesus is giving him, you shall not murder, you just don't kill anybody. I mean, these are just the rules for being a simple, basic, good human being. In any society, this would have you considered to be a good person. First of all, don't kill unjustly. You know, he goes over that one. Don't mess with another man's girl, basically, or another woman's man. Don't take what doesn't belong to you. Don't lie. Don't spread tales about other people, especially in court. Honor your father and mother. How do we look at people who don't honor their father and mother? We kind of look at them and go, man, that's a bratty kid right there. That's a horrible kid. And then finally, love your neighbor as yourself. If you see that your neighbor needs something, help them. Care about them. Don't just be selfish and think only yourself. These are just the rules for being a good human being. In any society across the globe, these stick. And so this young man's thinking, well, gosh, I've had this nailed since I was what, 10, 11? But Jesus is fixing to show him that he doesn't even meet this criteria. And the young man says, so what still do I lack? And Jesus says, if you would be perfect, I want you to go sell everything you have and give to the poor. Then you'll have treasure in heaven, and then come follow me. Now, again, this appears to be a break from that list of rules, but it's not. Because you see, in Luke chapter 10, Jesus told the story of a Good Samaritan. Many of us are familiar with that story about a gentleman that was robbed by thieves on his way from Judea down to Samaria. They beat him up, they took all his stuff, and they left him in a ditch for dead. Then there are 3 dudes, and I'm giving you the short version, that are all going to come by and look at him and pass on by. And then lo and behold, here comes a Samaritan. Now all of this is told to answer the question, who is my neighbor? And what does it mean to love my neighbor? And then he comes by and he sees this man. He gets off of his horse, donkey, whatever it is he's riding, probably a donkey. Gets down in the ditch, binds up this man's wounds, takes him to the inn, leaves him there, says, I want you to give him whatever he needs to get well. And when I come back through here, I'll settle his accounts. They're on me. Jesus made 2 things clear in that story. First of all, your neighbor is anybody that you come in contact with. Anybody that you have direct contact with throughout your day is your neighbor. And 2, to love your neighbor means to move heaven and earth to help them when you see them in need. And he is saying to this young man, he's pointing back to that last command on that list, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And he's saying to this young man, you've had the poor around you your entire life. You've seen their plight. You know what they go through. You've even had the means to help them. And yet, you look down on them. You look at them as though they're less than you. You've refused to help them, and in so doing, you have refused to love your neighbor as yourself. So he's broken that command. In addition to that, did you know that the Hebrew Old Testament is full of commands, and this young man's a Hebrew, that they heard in church every Sunday about how they were supposed to help the poor, about how the heart of God was for those that were poor, for those that were destitute, for those that were outcasts now. They were supposed to see that justice was done for those people. And doubtless it was taught to him in his home, because see, good Jewish parents, they taught these commands to their kids. The Bible tells them to write them above their doorpost and keep them inscribed in tablets in their home. And this young man has seen this all his life. So not only has he failed at loving his neighbor, he's failed to honor his parents, because you see, honoring your parents by the biblical command is being the man or the woman that God raised you to be. He had not been who his parents raised him to be. And so he failed to honor his parents. So Jesus is kind of coming back in this young man's face. He kind of took a backdoor, roundabout approach and kind of kicked him in the coccyx and said, look, you can't even earn your salvation with these simple basic rules of being a good human being, because you failed there. So, what did you think? Was I spot on in my analysis? Please let me know why or why not in the comments below. Also, if you like what you saw here today, please hit that like button and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss an episode. God bless you, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again next week.